If you have an electrical contracting company, you have a fleet of vans, you have crews, you have contracts set up, you have rental properties, you have a second home, you have a warehouse that you rent back to the company, and you have your personal assets. How do you set up an estate plan so your assets are protected and all of them and your business will pass down to your family without having to go through the probate process? If you don't set things up correctly, all of your assets will be frozen in the probate process. Your family will have to wait 1 to 2 years before those assets pass the ownership down to them, and during the probate process, they're effectively frozen. They cannot make major financial decisions, operating decisions, or anything like that for the business or the rental portfolio during the probate process. In this video, we're going to talk about how to set up your business, your rental portfolio, and your personal assets to avoid the probate process, how to protect your company, your rental properties, and your family from lawsuits coming after the business or the rental properties, and how to make sure your family can sell or run that business without any chaos related to it. So the first thing that we're going to do is set up a revocable living trust. This is the foundation of our estate plan. We can put everything inside the revocable trust, and we have centralized control over all of our assets, and they will all avoid the probate process. So what can you put inside the revocable trust? It's going to be things like your personal home, rental properties, LLCs that hold the rental properties, LLCs that hold your business, checking, savings, investment accounts, and life insurance policies, and equipment, trailers, and vans if you have them titled in your personal name and not inside the business operation. Your revocable living trust should include other documents that are super important. They're going to be things like a pour over will. Any assets that you forget to put inside of your revocable trust will go through the probate process and be dumped into the revocable trust after probate has happened. Then you have medical and financial power of attorney, so that in the event that you become incapacitated, someone has the ability to manage the assets in your personal name and make medical decisions on your behalf. And then you have a HIPAA release form. This will allow your family or the person with the medical power of attorney to get access to your medical record. The second thing is going to be adding asset protection. We want to make sure that we are protected from the rental properties and the electrical company. The next thing is going to be setting up asset protection. Now, as an electrician, you're exposed to tons of liabilities, things like workers getting injured, electrical fires, code violations, etc. If you don't have the proper asset protection set up, those liabilities will be able to come after your personal assets like your family home to satisfy any liabilities that you may have. So we're going to break this up into two sections. The first one is asset protection for your electrical company, and then the other one is going to be for your rental properties if you have any. The first one is going to be putting your electrical company inside of an LLC, taxes and S corp. That way you have limited liability for anything coming after the business, and then you have better tax efficiency with that LLC. If you have a partner, we would be setting up a buy-sell agreement with them, and then you can put the LLC membership interest inside of an irrevocable trust if you want to reduce your tax liability related to estate taxes, if you want to protect the business from any of your personal lawsuits or creditors coming after your estate, or if you don't plan on selling the business anytime soon. Now let's talk about how to set up your asset protection for your rental properties or a warehouse if you're renting one back to the company. And so what we would do is put each property inside of its own LLC. The reason that we would do this is so that they have asset protection from each other. As an example, if you have a tenant lawsuit coming after one of your rental properties and you have them separated out in their own LLCs, that lawsuit is isolated to that one property's LLC and it will not be able to access the rest of your rental portfolio. To put the LLC membership interest inside of a trust, all you would do is assign the ownership interest into the trust, and you would update your operating agreement so that the trust can actually own that LLC membership interest. The third thing we're going to do is set up a business succession plan. Now let's say that you hold the license for the company, you're the project manager, you estimate all the projects, etc. If something happens to you, that business is going to grind to a halt. So we want to make sure that when we pass away, our family can step into our position and take over the operations inside of that business. So we're going to talk about two scenarios here. If you're planning on selling the business or if you're planning on keeping it inside the family and them taking over the business. So if you're planning on selling, you'd want to set up a letter of intent or a buy-sell agreement now before it's too late. And then you can fund the buyout with a life insurance policy in the event that the sale of the business is triggered by your death or a disability. And if you're keeping it inside the family, you want to create an operations manual. This is going to tell your family how to bid projects, how to manage vendor relationships, how to do payroll, how to manage the projects, etc. And then you want to start training a successor, whether that's going to be one of your kids or one of the top foremen inside of your company. Now, the problem here is that most electrical companies are going to lose the value of that company very quickly when the key man passes away and no one is there to step into their role and take over the operations of that business. So while it may be a headache to bring someone in and start training them on all the systems that you're already trying to run day to day, it's very important that you bring that individual in, get them up to speed so that they can actually take things off your plate and step in your role in the event that you pass away. The fourth one's going to be using an irrevocable life insurance trust. Now, this one is optional, but the benefit of this is going to be that your your family can use that money for a lot of different purposes in the event that you pass away. The first one is going to be that they can buy out any partners that you want them to buy out so they can take over full ownership of that business. They can also pay off any debts that the company owes. That way they take over it with a good financial standing. If you think that they might financially struggle running the business or the rental properties, you can allow them to use that life insurance payout to pay off any debts that they have so that they're not in a financial pinch. And it can be used as an inheritance equalizer. If you're trying to pass the business down to one child and you want to pay out the rest of the kids an equal amount of value for that inheritance, you can use the life insurance payout to do that as well. Number 5 is going to be leaving behind access and instructions for our family. So the first one is going to be a letter to your family. You want to explain where all the assets are, what kind of accounts they need, how to run the operations, how you manage things, the frameworks that you use to manage all the operations, etc. The second one is going to be a business playbook. This will have all of your contract information, all the licensing information, all the payroll information, the key players inside of your business, their roles, and the contact information for everyone. Then you have a digital assets memo. This is going to be logins for all the software that you use. So it's going to be things like your QuickBooks portal, your payroll, etc. Just imagine what happens when you pass away. Your family has to step into the role of running your business and they have no idea where anything is. This will tell them where everything is, how to get access to it, who to call, etc. If you run an electrical company, you have rental properties, you have vacation homes, you have a warehouse, etc., and you want asset protection and all of your assets to avoid the probate process and go directly down to your family, click link in the bio, fill out the form, and schedule a time to talk to someone on our team.